Hey everyone, I hope you can hear me today. I love the countdowns, my favorite part of doing a stream. Um, but yeah, actually, let's get some little background music going still. There we go. Okay, cool. Let me know if you can hear me. So I've been starting doing introductions from myself, so it's a bit easier. So make sure everyone knows me. So I'm Kev. I'm a coach at Major League Hacking. I use the he, him, his pronouns. I do a lot of different things. So I honestly mean when I say this, feel free to talk to me about anything. Just making sure in chat, you guys can hear me, right? I should have checked this before. Okay, great. Amazing, thank you. So before we get started, let's take off of this. Make sure you guys check in. Before we even do that, let me take this off. Hi. Okay, cool. So let's get you guys checked in. So make sure to sign in. Today we're going to do our GitHub and Git Introduction to Git workshop. We're really just going to be going over a lot of the basics of Git and GitHub Desktop from our proud sponsor. So we're going to do that today. As right now, you can enjoy my background. I really enjoy it. I think it's a pretty cool background myself. But hello, welcome. Let's see. Ooh, I'm getting set up on some stuff. So if you are just joining us, we're going to be doing Git and GitHub Desktop. So if you have not, what we're going to first do is install GitHub Desktop. Actually, I'm going to remove this for a second. Actually, no. Let me just hide this for a second so the music stays. I need to make sure that this is done properly. 1 second. That. Close that out. Let's see. Okay, cool. So we're gonna start off with, once you've checked in, is head over to desktop.github.com and download GitHub Desktop. The whole point of GitHub Desktop is to, if you have never used Git, it might be hard for you to get started, but always having a version control for your project is always an amazing idea. So GitHub allows you to simplify that project. One, it provides, GitHub is online hosting service or internet service for your GitHub repositories, as well as for your code. So what makes GitHub Desktop so great is that it also created an application for you guys to use Git on a lot more easier way, having to know all the command lines for it. So the first thing we're going to be doing is installing GitHub Desktop. I'm going to drop this into chat for you guys. If you guys have not have it installed, feel free to go ahead and get that installed. Let's see. And as you guys get that completed, I will also be showing off a bit, if I can get this fully functional, is a bit of how GitHub, a command line version, would work. I am just going through and trying to recover some stuff real quick. CD thing. Yes, you can use Git from the terminal. We will do some of that too. Actually, if you know how to use Git, it shouldn't be too hard. But let me see. I'm surprised that GitHub Desktop does not have a Linux version. I guess it kind of makes sense. Linux already a lot of command line. Desktop Linux. If it does not, that's perfectly fine. We can still walk you through. There's some references in GitHub Desktop on Linux if you're interested. But if you already use Git, then you'll be great. We can go through Git Bash. That's perfectly fine. No, is the website. You do not have to install GitHub Desktop. I think it would be really beneficial. You can always use a terminal over desktop. I agree that terminal is better, but from a learning perspective, GitHub Desktop does ease it a lot. But let me get set up so we can do this. Okay, cool. So anyways, I'm gonna do a git cmd. Okay, cool. Oops, I want to git bash. Git bash. It's easiest to start with. So if you haven't, you can feel free to install GitHub Desktop. If you don't need GitHub Desktop if you already understand the basics of Git. We're just going to go over a lot of fundamentals in Git. Cool. So this is a command line version. Let me see if I can blow this up a bit. There we go. So winter at winter. Don't worry about that. I just designed my PS1 a bit, but that is for sure a fact. So I'm also going to bring up the GitHub Desktop terminal. So once you have it installed, GitHub Desktop will look kind of like this. We're going to create a tutorial repository. If you have this, that's great. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to do that off screen real quick just to make sure nothing I need is there. So you could just go ahead and create the GitHub tutorial repository, and we'll make sure that is created perfectly fine. If you don't have a GitHub account, go ahead and create one. Let me start. Refresh. If you guys already are preferring the command line, I don't think we will have a tutorial for you, but we'll go over a few things. So let's go over what Git is for right now. Let me refresh this. Reset. Cool. Let me see. So Git is what we call version file control. It's version control system. So it's VSC, version control system. What it essentially does is it allow you to have different instances of a project, what we call branches, which you can develop your code on and then merge together. It is really beneficial for it's. Let me pull up something real quick. It's really beneficial for working in teams because you guys are allowed to work in multiple different branches and then come together. So one of the greatest resources for Git is like most things for Git documentation. So if you ever look at the Git documentation, it really goes over a lot of things. And this is a complete list, but there's even like quick references, like the GitHub cheat sheet, which is a wonderful tool. You can get it in any language. We're going to look at the English one. It's a wonderful tool that goes over how to install GitHub, how to configure your GitHub, some basic creating repository things, your basic commands like fetch, merge, push, pull, how to create branches, how to check out branches and all that. And it also gives you like a flow chart here. I'm actually going to look at this more closely. How Git flow works is you first create a branch, and let's call this your master branch. So this is, let's say, an instance of your code base. And when you create an actual, let's say, feature branch, which is like another version of the code, you can keep your master branch and all the work on code the same while you work on, let's say, new feature or a new part of your code base on a separate branch that doesn't affect this branch. So let's say there's two people working together. I can totally create start from this branch, create a feature branch that looks exactly the same, which would branch off like a tree, and then you can make edits to this branch as it go along. And then when you submit a pull request, what this does is saying, I am done with my edits. I want to merge whatever changes I made in my feature branch, which is this branch, into the master branch. So you can see how this workflow works, right? So you started here with your actual master branch, which is where the newest working code should be. You created a branch down here that's a feature branch, which allows you to make edits as you go along. And then once you're done with edits, you make a pull request, which is basically saying, let's put everything in the feature branch into the master branch. And you see you can make discussions and you can comment and make code reviews. So this is what code review is when you, let's say, work on a code base with a lot of people. Someone else might be reviewing your code to make sure it's good before you put it back in the master branch. And once the pull request gets accepted by whoever the acceptor is, it merges back together. And this becomes your newest master branch. So another thing, what we were talking about, I love the glossary. So a Git, again, it's open source distributed version control system. A GitHub is a platform for hosting and collaborating on Git repository. A commit is some terminology. So a commit is when a GitHub object, which is a snapshot of the entire repository, compressed into a SHA. And what this is essentially is when you make a commit, you create a node here, and every commit together makes a full entire repository snapshot of a branch. A branch is a lightweight movable pointer to a commit. So let's say this is a branch right here. I can have multiple branches, right? So I can technically have another branch on top of this. I can technically, if I really want to, branch off of this branch as well. But that generally is not how you would go about it. Generally, how the workflow works is you go from your master branch to your last known working code, and you create a future branch off of that branch. A clone allows you to create a complete copy of a repository, right? So like how we were talking about, hello, welcome. So how we're talking about GitHub is a platform for hosting online Git repository. Cloning it would be, let's say if I tell my little computer to go clone a GitHub repo on GitLab or GitHub, but in our instance, it would be GitHub. There's a lot of other Git online platforms like GitLab, but in our instance, we're using GitHub. So let's say I tell my local machine to go clone a GitHub repository. What it does essentially goes to GitHub repository saying, hey, I'm making a clone of it. There is a .git file in that tells it how to make a clone. It grabs that file and then it basically replicates whatever branch you asked it to clone. So it allows you to create a local version for you to work on. And on that local version is what you would do, let's say all your commit, your branches, and then you would do what we call a push request, which will be down here. Well, actually, because they don't pull it. But what a push request is essentially, it will push whatever's on your local machine back to your online repository. In our instance, let's say if I clone it down, make changes, make a few commits to it, right? And then I make a push request, it'll take all my changes and push it back up to our online hosting platform, GitHub. A fork essentially allows you to, that is wonderful. Everyone should have a hard copy. I think, at least we used to have, I think something we still do, if you come to some of our physical event, we used to have like this adorable GitHub cheat sheet. I have mine somewhere. It's been years since I touched mine, but it's like adorable cheat sheet. You can open, it's green, it goes over the commands, basic of Git. It's really wonderful. But yes, so going back over to what we're saying, a fork allows you to copy a complete repository to a different owner, right? So let's say I found an open source code base on, let's say creating an RGB health bar with your keyboard, right? So like your keyboard lighting will display different lighting for a different amount of health you have. And I want to extend upon that project myself and add features and build more to it. What you can do is you create a fork of that branch and that you own that repository. Essentially, you're creating a version of that repository that you own for you to build upon. That's what a fork is. Next, what you have is a pull request. A pull request essentially allows you to compare the different instances of your local. So once you make a clone, you have a local version of essentially that repository. A pull request pulls the newest version of that repository back down and compare with your local version to see if you have everything you need, right? So let's say I'm a user, and let's pick someone from chat for funsies. Let's say I'm a user and don't know how to say your name. I'm going to use your number. So let's say 1903 is another user. And we both have two separate cloned repository from our GitHub. Once, let's say I make a change and I push it back up to the main repository on GitHub, if 1903 wants that same change, they can pull it right back down. So they make a pull request. It'll go back to the repository and say what has been changed, and it'll pull it back down to his local repository, which he cloned down, and then he would have those changes. So you can see how useful this is, having this all being stored at an online hosting platform like GitHub, and having multiple people be able to use this GitHub and pull down code, and as you make changes, maintain this code. It gives you an online repository as well as a version control system for you to keep track of your code. Okay, so real quick, so the head essentially just represents your current working directory. So let's say I have my head will be initially pointed to here, right, at this master branch. The second I create a Git branch, my head will be moved down here. It basically shows you what current branch you're working on, because you can have a lot of branches. I can have 30, 40 branches, which would be crazy. Most of the time, once you develop a branch and you merge it, then you delete that branch. But in theory, I can have 30, 40 branches for a project, and my head essentially tells my local Git, the actual version control software, where I'm looking at and what they need to what snapshots they need to be pulled in for me to fully function. Okay, cool. So that goes over a little bit of GitHub as well as Git commands. So let's go over a few basic Git commands real quick. You really don't have to worry about this. This is always really cool, but this is the less thing you can work out. That's pretty fun stuff. So first thing is git init is what allows you to create a repository. So I'm going to bring this back up. I'm going to actually take this off screen for a second to set up for our project, and then I will bring that back on. Actually, I'm going to shrink that a bit. And then let's actually make this a bit bigger so you guys can see this later. And so now, let's see. So I'm gonna move over to. We're gonna go over to. Give me 1 second. I'm just creating some folders in my repository to make sure we're functional. So let's see. Do I have a Git folder? No, I don't. I'm in my WD. I'm gonna. I have a Git riff folder in here. I do, so I can see it too. Okay, so I'm gonna. Okay, cool. So pull this back over. So you should be able to see my terminal. If you're using terminal or anything, so I'm using a bash terminal right now. So for what we're gonna do first is we're gonna do a make dir, create a directory. I'm gonna call it Global Hack Week October. And I'm gonna do a dash and call it, let's say, intro to Git. Once that's done, you can see that I have a few GitHub repository in here. I just pulled down, make the Global Hack October. Oh, so it created multiple folders because I forgot to put quotes around there. So I'm actually gonna do first and remove. And I'm gonna do -d, and then I'm gonna do essentially I'm gonna just do this, and then I'm just gonna do rm-d. So now if I do a list all, there's nothing in there except for the GitHub tutorial. I'm gonna clear this again. I'm now do a make dir. I'm gonna put quotes now. This time actually I'm just gonna bring back my code. Hitting your arrow key brings up your passcode command. I'm gonna do this, put quotes around it. I'll put one more quote, too many. So let's just cancel that and then do that. Now if I do L, you can see there's one full one with spaces in between, called Global Hack Week October. So now I'm going to cd into that, Global Hack Week October. Okay, it doesn't want autocomplete, that's fine. We'll just add the quotes, and then there we go. And then I'm going to do LL. There's nothing in here. So the first thing you want to do is to initialize a Git repository. As you can look, we use the git init command. So into git init, and then you can call it wherever you want. If you want it to be within another thing, right? So I can do git init something, but I'm just running git init. What it does is then it inits the GitHub repository in the folder you're in. You really don't see anything because there might be hidden files. So I'm going to do ls-la. which you can see now there is a folder called .git within this file repository. For command line cheat sheet, we're actually going to be going over how to utilize Unix and Unix commands on a different workshop if you want to stop by for that. Before a cheat sheet, I think I did write up one for Go Back with Git. You might be able to find that. We'll pull that up later. Do you have any specific questions? We can definitely answer them live right now. But yeah, so essentially now you made a GitHub repository, but it is local. So this is how you would make, let's say, a local GitHub repository. To make one on your GitHub account, we would first need to log in, which I'm going to need to pull this off screen for a second. Well, someone in chat might be able to provide you a resource they use, but let me pull this off screen real quick. So if you are creating one, let's say a GitHub, so log into your GitHub account, and you should be able to, there should be an easy way for you to create a repository. And once you do that, you would run git clone, and the URL will clone it down. So let's do this. I'm gonna bring this back up, bring this back up. But yes, let's go over git clone. Git clone, you would essentially just run git clone and the repository URL that links to the git, and it will make a clone of that repository. We already have one locally, so I'm gonna cd out for you, and I'll show you. So our desktop tutorial made by actually GitHub Desktop. If I do a ls-la, you can see that it has a git and a readme file, and that is fully up there. So what a git ignore it does is essentially, oh, I did not think it'll bring me there. Okay, cool. So what a git ignore does is a git ignore tells your actual git version control system some stuff that you might typically don't want in there, right? So like exclude certain files from being tracked by git. Some good example of this is, for example, if you're building in, let's say, React.js, you might exclude your whole node module. If you're using React, you might exclude certain things. If you're coding, let's say, in Python, you would exclude your libraries and stuff. It's just certain things that, like, with your code, they can pull down and reproduce without needing to upload huge amounts of data and pull down huge amounts of data. And with those changes being tracked, because they're not important. What is important is more your code base than the libraries that support your code base. I forgot to change my banner for today. But again, feel free to ask me anything in chat as we're going along. Actually, if I disable this, you can actually see me. But feel free to ask me anything in chat as we go along. But yes, so that's what a git ignore file is. You don't have to have one. It was heavily recommended for you to have one. To create a branch, you just do git branch, and then you do the name. Git checkout, essentially what that allows you to do is to move between your branches. Git merge allows you to look at, let's say, a branch and look at its changes. And let's say if you're off merged, right? So let's say I made a change into my master branch because someone else pushed it up, and then I want to pull that change into, let's say, current branch I'm working on without merging into master. So actually, let's see if we can use the best resources ever built into a Microsoft Windows. It's what I like to call Paint. But yeah, so let's say this is the master branch. So I'm going to label it M for master branch. And let's say I pulled a feature branch, and I'm going to call it KF. So it's Kevin's feature branch here, right? And let's say someone else pulled another feature branch down here, and from the same exact location. And we're going to use someone else from chat. Ghost Coder, it's going to be GCF. It's your feature branch. And let's say through this revision process, finished my feature branch, and I pushed it back up to master. And this will link to here, and I committed it. So I committed my changes to my local branch. So this is my commit. And then I did a push after I committed it into the master branch. So it's back here. So this is now where master is. And let's say at this feature branch, wants all the changes that Ghost Coder wants all the changes I made in my feature branch. What then occurs is they can use a merge, which will then look at and provide it the master branch location. What that would do, it was then look at this branch and then look at all the changes and then put it back into this branch. Okay, let me disable notification. Cool, there we go. And then it will merge it into your branch. So then your branch would technically be based off of this branch now. So it will take your branch and move it over here. I know this is a bad paint, but I don't have mine set up. And then your ghost coder's fork, what do I call it? Feature branch would now technically be based off of this master branch, because it would have all the changes that my Kevin feature branch made to this master branch in your ghost coder feature branch, and your Go filter basically moved here. So it's a way to essentially update your current feature branches or your current branches to whatever new base of master branch, let's say, you have accepted. That's Git merge. Thank you, appreciate it. Hello, welcome. We're just going over Git and some initial stuff with Git. GitHub is one of our amazing sponsors for Global Hack Week, so we really appreciate their supporting our projects and everything. But yeah, so thank you. Paint's always fun to use. So git branch -d deletes a branch. Like git branch creates a branch. Sometimes you would delete branches. So especially once you merge a branch in, there's a lot of time no longer usage for that branch, because all that code is in your main feature branch. So there's no longer need for that code. Let me pull up an actual git. Actually, I'm gonna do it on a separate screen just to make sure. Git branch version control system. I want to pull a good example of this. This is the best one I can find for right now. We're just gonna open image in a new tab. Okay, so let's look at this. So this would be an example of, let's say you're using something, and how this works, right? So you have your master branch. This is a random one I just found, but you have a master branch located here, and you can see that someone made a feature branch here called add auto load field. But then your master branch has been moved to here. So first added documentation, and then someone created a feature branch off of that master branch, and they added a feature. Then they on top of that added something else. These are commits, right? And then they merged it back here. So now this is where your new master branch is. So someone first directly worked on the master branch here. They directly worked on the master branch, and they added the whatever they added, and then someone else created a feature branch on there. And you can see these are all different users, and then it merges back in. And then you can see and let's say someone else created a feature branch here, but someone branched from the next one. You can see there's multiple branches that can be going on, and then they all merge back, and then there's commits all here directly on working on the master branch. It branches back off. It's just a really good example of how a tree-like structure is set up through Git. But yes, let me close that back out, and let's go back here. So what git fetch does, essentially, it downloads all the history from the remote track branch, but it doesn't actually merge it. Git merge combines the remote tracking history of the remote branch in the current branch. Git push pushes everything from here from your current local branch to wherever your remote branch is, and our remote branch would be on GitHub. So it'll push all the local branch commits to GitHub. And then git pull essentially allows you to pull your local branch, your remote branch into your local branch, and it also merges it. So essentially, git pull is essentially just a combination of git fetch and git merge. So a git pull, essentially, you fetch it first, you look at you'll go to your remote branch, say pull down all the changes, and then you run a git merge into your current branch. Is what a git pull is essentially. These are not that important for right now, except for git commit. It would be the only thing that's important. Git commit allows you to, again, commit a local change to be staged. What we call staging is essentially the area where you run things in between. Oh, music stopped. That's crazy. Let's put on some more music. Give me 1 second. Let's try I don't know. This music system that we have is, not gonna lie, pretty bad, because we have to be really careful what music we play. That seems to be too upbeat. Let's see. Do we have any playlists? Let's see. How about we'll try this playlist, I guess. And then let's go up to the type and do this. And let's try this song. For everybody to tell me the music is bad, I'm always up to change it. Okay. Yeah, so git fetch, how git fetch works again is essentially all it does is it essentially pulls, it doesn't, okay, I don't want to say pull, it downloads all your remote change history, right? So let's bring back out Paint, our nifty friend, Paint. All git fetch does, so when I have, let's say, this branch here, let's build two, right? So this is my local repository. I'm gonna draw a line. Oh, okay, I'm gonna draw it, but let's draw it. Okay, cool. So this is, let's say, my remote. This is my local. So for my local, I ran the command git clone the URL to my remote. Bear with me with this mouse writing, but essentially I ran that. So whatever copies in remote. So let's say here's my one master branch. This leads to another master. This leads to another master. There's a feature branch that branches off of here. So this is a feature branch, etc. And then this exact thing will be cloned down to my local. I'm not going to draw it again. But so how git fetch works is when you run git fetch, let's say my master branch has made changes from here and here. If I'm on my master branch and I run git fetch, all it does is it downloads all these changes onto your local repository, like downloads into your local repository, but it does not apply it to your branch. So I would essentially then have this changes download here, but my branch will still be here. Only what happens is then you do a git merge. You can merge, let's say, a fetch into here. But most of the time you rarely would use git fetch. That's a pretty I don't think I've personally really used git fetch. What you would use mostly is git pull. What git pull essentially does is it not only downloads this, it also merges it for you, so you're at your next base already. Does that make sense? If that doesn't, feel free to let me know, and we'll break that down maybe with an example later. But essentially, that's what occurs. Let me know if that does not make sense. We're going to temporarily move on for now. Most time we use git pull. So again, git log doesn't really matter. You shouldn't really use git reset that much unless you are essentially messing around too much. Git reset essentially undoes all the commits after a certain commit. So it preserves it locally. Git reset hard, it discards it too. So one undo does it, one completely discards it. But these are pretty, like, you should really need to use redo commits. It's pretty hard to use sometimes. I tried committing, the git extension in my VS Code is showing 100K plus. It does not affect my work, but the fact that I know a large number is there gives me chills. I feel that. I tried committing all changes, but it tried pushing on my files on my desktop GitHub. But it tried pushing on my files on my desktop. Why is that, please? We would have to take a more deeply and look into that. You're saying that you're running a commit, but it's trying to push it off. I don't know. You might have something like set up where automatically once you push, when you commit, it automatically starts to push command. But that it's like a case by case basis. Unless someone knows more. I also don't use VS Code with Git, so unless it's defaulting built into VS Code, I have no clue. Being completely honest, right there. But yeah, so now we've gone over some stuff. Let's do some actual Git stuff. So I'm gonna do it in both Git desktop and there. So as you can see, I have GitHub desktop pulled up. I have my Git down here. I actually don't know if I ever installed Vim. I did. That's great. But because I have, I'm actually gonna pull up another instance of a bash. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna copy my Vim file over because that's really helpful. If you ever use Vim, Vim is a pretty good command. Vim is a command line editor, so it allows you to edit files in the command line. But yes. Yes, we're not going to use IDE. We're going to use GitHub Desktop, but essentially it's the same idea as IDE, and then we're going to go over some of the stuff we went over. Yes, you got that right. So git fetch only downloads from any branch, right? You can fetch from multiple branches because the master branch is just the branch that is, let's say, the first of a branch. You can build essentially a whole tree. If you understand data structures, you can build a whole tree from there. But what it does, git fetch is basically downloads the data for that branch, but it doesn't actually merges it together. Git pull will actually download the data and merge it. So that is correct. We will be doing this. Let me pull up some things, get my Vim configured, and then we will go ahead and do that. My apologies for that. I need to first CD into F. Sorry. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in chat. I'm just getting set up real quick, and we'll go from here. Nice. And then I am going to key.vimrc. What's my Twitter? That's a great question. I don't remember if I linked my Twitter. I don't use social media that much. I'm not gonna lie to you, but if I do have one, I do have one. So it's @_winter_1314. I don't use my Twitter like that though. Be completely honest. Also, feel free to ask me questions about anything. I'm always down to talk about any single thing possible. So don't feel like it has to be topic related. So sure, I'm like doing configuration of stuff. Feel free to ask anything. All right, cool. So I just configured my vimrc. So I'm going to run a bash command real quick. So now if I do vim, you can see it looks a bit different. There's lines. I can tell what code number I'm on and stuff like that. All right, cool. So let's go over both things. We're ready for that. So I'm going to first do, hello. I definitely have that configured in my bash. Hello, command not found. That is just not true. Bash command not found. Oh, I forgot how my system operates. So we'll go over this more in the Linux, Unix lecture or Unix Linux lecture. So how a bash out works is, we'll go over that later on my next workshop. But for this one, it's pretty fun. We don't need it. So what we need to do first is, as you can see, there's currently nothing in my Git desktop tutorial repository, except for if I do this, you can see that there's only a README file. And this is a good example. So using GitHub Desktop, it would be the same for any IDE, really. As you can see, this is the branch we're in. You can have multiple branches. I can create a new branch. Let's say I want to work on a feature. I can create a new branch. Here's your pull request. In the IDE, essentially, these are just nested in a different place, but the concept is identical. So you can see it tells me what changes I've made. I've made no changes. It also can tells me all the history of my changes, right? This is the really good part. The part that makes version control systems really important is that you get to keep track of all your changes. So let's say when you're coding and something goes wrong, you can always go back to a previous version. So I'm going to first pretend I'm doing something. I'm going to first create a branch, right? So I'm going to do it here. So I will just do create a branch. off of main. Main or master, we have moved away from what we call a master branch. We call it the main branch. I should actually set this. Is just due to the bad connotation with the word master. Thank you. That's mostly appreciated. This is genuinely really fun. But yeah, so my apologies. I should have made that clear in the beginning. Is that we use the word main instead of master now. I'm just a bad habit. The only reason we swap is the bad connotation with the word master branch. So you can hear main branch, master branch. They're essentially the same thing. And to be honest, sometimes you should develop branch. You can name this branch essentially whatever you want. It's your base branch. It's your root branch for whatever you're doing. So I'm gonna clone it off of main. So you can see it says your new branch will be based on your current checked out branch main. So I'm gonna call it, let's say, update read me. So you can have spaces in your branch name. So I'm going to do a dash here where I'll automatically do it. So once I create a branch, you can see that I have now moved. It will automatically check you out as well to this new readme branch and add additional space because I think I hit space. But yeah, so now I created a branch called readme. You can always click this and rename the branch. I'm going to rename it readme because I don't like the actual dash at the end. Okay, so that's how you do it through, let's say, your IDE or something. You can always go into your actual terminal, and how you would do this is you would do git branch. So first you want to check what branch you might be on. So I can do git branch, I think it's -a. So you can see I'm currently already in the update readme branch. The reason is because these two are at the same instance of that branch, right? So if I want to move to another branch, I would do a git checkout, and then I would check out my main branch. So you see, switch to main branch or switch to branch main. So and it's updated for origin. And so let's say now I want to make another. If you want to make another branch, all you gotta do is do git branch, 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 and let's say I'm gonna do update read me, and I'm gonna do this called git bash. So it's done through the bash. So now if I do git branch, branch-a, you can see I have all the branch. So this does not automatically check you out into that branch, right? So we talked about it being two different commands. I made the branch with using the command git branch, and now I want to check out that branch. I do git checkout, and I'm going to do update dash readme dash git bash. So now I have checked. I did readme twice because I think I hit tab. But yeah, so update readme git branch. So now I've checked out to this branch. And you can see that another thing is if I do git branches or branch-a, I have the start here. If I go back up here, right, it will automatically update because this is technically one Git instance of that version system control. So it doesn't matter which one you're on. So I've showed you how to do it with a command line as well as how to do it here. Let's still actually make some changes. But before we do, another thing that's really cool is you can see this open repository in a Notepad editor, Notepad++. So you can open an external editor. You can open the actual in your Explorer to see like what this looks like as of right now and everything. You can always do it in your command line, right? So I can do ls-l. So there's currently nothing but a README file. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a file. Well, we said we're going to update. Let's do update. So let's update the README file. I'm going to use Vim. You can use whatever you want. You can open Explorer, turn Explorer. Okay. If we don't want to merge, okay, we can go over that real quick. So let's say I made two branches. I don't want the git bash branch, right? So I don't believe you can do this. Is you do git branch D. You just can't be on the branch you're trying to delete, right? So I'm currently in the update git bash branch. So if I do this and do readme, I don't think I can be in this branch trying to delete. Maybe I can. It'll just move me automatically. Yeah, see, you can't delete the branch you check out into. So first, all I would do is I would first check out, git check out, if I can spell, main. So I move back to the main branch, and then I would just do delete, and there it's gone. If you make sure you check in, that's also really important. If you have not checked in, make sure you checked in for today, because checking in will get you stickers sent out to you if you reach a certain score. So I'm going to drop the check-in link one more time. If you've not checked in, make sure to check in. Endless stickers are great. would totally hand you one in person if I ever see you at an event. But yes. So that's how you delete a branch. So let's go back here. So it will see it won't delete. It'll move here. I'm going to use the command line, not command. I'm going to use my actual desktop now. So I'm going to move over to the update me branch, right? So now I'm going to do. Actually, let me see what this actually does. I need to be careful real quick. So I'm just going to remove this from screen just for 1 second. I just need to be careful and make sure certain things aren't shown. Okay, cool. So that's not helpful. That's not great. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna close that out, bring back my stream. So again, if you have like Notepad++ installed, you can just click on this. You can make edits. I'm gonna use Vim, so I'm gonna first change my branch. You can also check what branch you're on just by doing git branch. I'm on the current README branch, which is great. I'm gonna open an editor. You can use any editor you want. I'm gonna use Vim, and I'm gonna open README. Since we're saying we're gonna make changes to README, I'm gonna edit that. It says, "Welcome to Git Desktop. This is your README." Doesn't matter what you want to do. Oh, perfect. Act as a tutorial. We're gonna do exactly that actually. I'm gonna get to the end of this line. Then I'm gonna hit enter. I'm gonna run line 6, right? Ooh, welcome to Global Hack Week October Git Workshop. And then I'm gonna hit escape, and then I'm gonna write and quit. So now if you see, if I do git, if I actually just click on the command, actually I have to go here first, right? It says, oh, there's one change that's been made. And I can do, actually, let me pull up the cheat sheet and see if it's covered in here for you guys. So git log, yes, git diff. Okay, cool. So this is where you kind of would use git log. If you're not using this, it doesn't really matter. And also, since you know your changes, it also really doesn't matter. But you can change to git log, and it tells me that I have made a change on this head branch, and I made the initial commit, which is perfectly fine. So from there, I'm going to git commit first, right? So committing it stages your changes. So I'm going to do a git commit. You can do it here too, right? This allows you to do a commit here. All you do is type in description and commit. We're going to show you the command line version of this. So I'm going to do a git commit. I'm going to do git commit, and then I'm going to hit. You can do a message, right? Do a -m and be like updated readme.md and hit enter. It says readme does not known for git. Oh, I forgot to put quotes. So you want to do when you do message, you want to do quotes. Hit enter. So now it says Ombre branch. Has not been staged. So okay. So because I'm not using the thing, I have to also add files to make sure they're staged for change. I first want to do a git add. I'm going to git add readme. So my git on my local knows that readme is part of this part. So essentially, using add tells it which file to keep track of. I'm going to do a git commit update. So now it says I've made one insertion change. It tells you what you added, what you removed. And now if you go up to here, you can see the commit actually has been made. So you can see it goes away from here and it goes into history. So now it's a history object, right? So here's my initial commit. I made a second commit. Wait, that's history is not updated. Hold on. Where is my second commit? I think that is bugging here. Because there's definitely not two initial commits. Oh, hold on. Did I do something wrong? Let's see. So if I do, no, that's right. I just did that commit. I think my history is just bugging a tad bit. Let me just go here, and then I'm going to come back to this branch. So I'm going to go back to this branch. Or maybe history just doesn't show me the new history. Okay. That's super interesting. So history is supposed to, if it was functioning properly. Oh, well, this is in May. Oh, maybe that's why. I'm going to do update. Oh, it's comparing it to May. So that's, oh, there we go. Sorry. So I was on the wrong branch. So I go to history, and then I go here. You can see that this is different from May. I added this line. It's in my history. And now I can go to changes. So for next step is we talked about is after you make a commit, you need to do a push. for it to go on to the actual, let's say, GitHub repo. So you would just do a git push. But I'm going to do it to here. You can just run a git push, but I'm going to go here. And then, so once you commit it, it's going to say you want to publish. Publish is essentially just running git push. So I'm just going to hit git push. It says pushing to origin. And now it will push this onto my actual Git repo. But as you can see, it's still going to be on this branch. It's still going to be this branch. The next thing I want to do is merge into main branch. And for that, what I would do is you would use git merge. I'm going to show you how to do it here, though. So you would first go here. So we're going to check out main branch. And you can see in main branch, once it moves successfully, that it only has initial commit. It doesn't have the whole entire README. So I'm going to go back to this branch. Hey, what's up? Any questions? So then I would go to this branch and click choose a branch to merge into update README. I guess for Git desktop, you would go to this branch first. And then after you get to your main branch, all you would do is you go down here and you click on choose a branch to merge. You want to merge this branch in, and you want to use the merge commit. And this now will take this branch and merge into main. And you can see that now if I go to history and main branch, it will also has that. Oh, I want to compare it to update branch. You would also see, oh, no comparison. I want the main branch's history. You can see, oh, there you go, updated properly. You can also see that there's been this appended into that main, and that's in main. And to show that even more is if I do a ls, you can see that the README file is still here. If I vim, you see we moved branches. If I vim into the README, or just open up the README file, you can see that new line I wrote is still there. So that what we just done is we created a branch. We edited the branch. We created a feature branch. We edited the feature branch. We merged the feature. Then we pushed the feature, committed the feature branch, pushed it up to a repository. We then pulled it back down to make sure it's updated, and then we merged our feature branch into the main branch. So now the main branch reflects what's in the feature branch. We're gonna do another quick example, just creating a new file, right? That's generally pretty important. So I'm gonna do this on completely in command line because I showed how to do this in the other already. So first things first is I can create a new branch. So I'm gonna do git branch, and then I'm gonna call this git add, git commit, git push, git merge. That's correct. That is how what you explained right there is how you would create a new branch, work on it, and put it back to your main branch. So that's amazing. So first we need to get branch. We're gonna do like I'm gonna call it add files. So I created the branch. I'm gonna do git branch to show you I created the branch. I wish I can spell git branch. So it shows you I created the branch. Another key thing is this is just really great. So let's say I know I want to create a branch and check it out. You can do git checkout -d. And then I can call it like add files files -2, right? So what this does is it creates a branch and checks it out for you. So you save like a second of time, but a second of time goes a long way, especially like if you know you're going to check out that branch. So now I'm in this new branch, so I would do a ls. You can see that it's only the README files in here. I'm going to do I'm going to run touch. Touch creates a file. So my touch, I'm going to call it test123.txt. So once I do that and do a ls, you can see now there's a new file in there. So after you do this, you want to do a git add, and you want to git add test123.txt to make sure to stage that for change. So now that's been added, I can do a git commit. So it opens up an editor, and for you to pop in like what you want to name it, right? If you for a message, you can just close it. I don't want a message, so it aborts the commit, but you would just do dash. I just like to do it in one command, just do git commit -m. I'm gonna add a message, added new file, close this and enter. So the commit's been done. Now we do git push. You'll push this into, okay, so we need to set upstream. So essentially this is saying, because remember, we have two types of repositories. So local repository has this branch, the remote one doesn't. So you want to do a git set upstream, and you just want to set your upstream to your origin. And then origin and basically saying this is saying set the upstream origin and create a new branch called git files 2 on your origin. So I'm going to do this real quick. Git push the upstream origin add files 2. So now there's going to be add files 2 on your remote repository too. So now you see it says it created a new branch remotely on the remote repository. Then it pushed this into this, and I'm gonna do a git git. So now it's pushed up. So now you have the newest thing. So you can do git pull if you want to pull down information. It will say nothing's been pulled down because we haven't made any changes. We can do it. So already up to date. And now to do a local merge, you just do a git. First, I'm actually going to do git checkout to, I want to check out our main branch. And if I'm there, I'm going to do, so it says our main branch is ahead. So I'm going to do a git push, right? Actually, let me see. So I'm going to do an ls. You can see the main branch is only README, but still ahead. So I'm going to do a git push. Make sure our remote repository is at the same place as our local repository. So I pushed it up. So if I do a git pull, I should have nothing new being pulled down because there's nothing new I pushed up that should be remotely pushed up by someone else yet. I'm going to do a git a merge now. So if I'm going to do ls for you and show you the new file's not in here, I'm going to do a git merge. And then with the git merge, I'm going to need to pull in the branch I want to merge in, which the branch I want to merge in is called add-files-2. So git merge, you can see it merged in for you. So what this does, essentially, it does, it took the changes from my local computer and merged it in. So if I now do ls, you can see now this new file is there. So now if I do a git push, I'm pushing this new changed file directly onto the remote repository. So I just did all I did over there, adding a file. So now if I go over here, I check on my main branch. Actually, let's see if you on GitHub. Let me see if I can get this for you. So I will show you this. I should have done this probably earlier. So if I bring up my actual repository on, oh, so I have to sign in. That's really unfortunate, but let me actually do something for you. Maybe better prepare next time, but I'm gonna open it in an image editor. Okay, cool. So as you can see, in this picture of it that I can pull up, is that in main branch on even the Git repository online, you can see there's a README file and a text file now, because that's what the push is actually doing. No. You'll get equally as good. A comes with practice. But with that, I think I'm going to have to unfortunately call end to our Git. I hope you learned something. I will stick around for a couple minutes to take any questions. Yes, terminate this process. Yes. But yeah, I'm going to stick around a couple minutes to take any questions. But I think that will conclude our Git workshop. I would want to say, please stick around. We are having our next thing that's occurring after me is my great good Emulator Rosendo. Ro is going to be doing set up a remote Linux desktop in the cloud. That's occurring right after me. Let me grab this. Basically, as soon as I end the stream, so feel free to stay. Yeah, you can always message me. I will definitely respond. Hit me up on the Discord for now, and I can get you some stuff. I'm glad everyone learned the basics. So have a nice day. I'm gonna switch over to this. It's not the right workshop actually. Let me edit that. So please stick around for setting up a remote desktop over Rosendo at 2 p.m. EST. I wish you guys a wonderful time. Take care. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.